The moment hung in the air like static before a lightning strike. Stephen Colbert had just said it. 6 words, spoken almost too casually, with that signature smirk tugging at the corner of his lips. But the room didn't laugh. It didn't breathe. And Shakira. She didn't blink. Her eyes locked onto his, not with fury, but with something colder. Clarity. The silence that followed wasn't just awkward. It was surgical. You could almost hear the millions of viewers freeze, mid-scroll, their thumbs suspended in disbelief, as the clip sliced its way across the internet like wildfire. People didn't just watch it. They replayed it, screen-recorded it, transcribed it. Because what happened next wasn't just a clapback. It was a masterclass in control, in dignity, in knowing exactly who you are and refusing to be reduced to a punchline. This wasn't just another late-night slip. This was a moment that ripped through pop culture like a shockwave, and it only took 30 seconds. What started as a light-hearted appearance had flipped on its head. But what did Colbert say? And how did Shakira manage to take the entire room, hell, the entire internet, back into her hands? Let's rewind. The set of The Late Show with Stephen Colbert always glows with a kind of cozy nighttime charm. Warm blue backlighting, mahogany, wood panels polished to perfection, and the comforting familiarity of Stephen's desk anchoring the frame. On this particular evening, everything followed the usual rhythm. A-list guest arrives, audience cheers. The house band plays a Latin-tinged riff in honor of the night's guest, and then she appears, Shakira, dressed in sleek black with silver, accents that caught the stage lights just enough to shimmer, not enough to blind. Her energy was unmistakable, not brash, not overcompensating, just settled, like someone who's survived enough storms to know which ones are worth dancing. And Colbert leaned in as he always does, quick with his jokes, smooth with his tone. The two shared a laugh about how Shakira's hips had made global headlines long before streaming did, about her uncanny ability to blend genres and languages like no one else. It was going exactly as expected. Fun, flirty, a little cheeky. You could feel the room settle into comfort. Behind the camera, producers watched monitors like hawks. Colbert was hitting his beats, Shakira was playing along, and the studio audience was engaged but not unruly. Everything was scripted chaos, the way late night should be. That's the thing, though. With live audiences and real personalities, control is a myth. All it takes is one unscripted moment for the walls to crack. And then, right as they moved into the segment called Truth Bombs, Colbert reached for his cards, a smirk twitching across his face. The lighting hadn't changed. The music was still fading into silence, but something in the room did shift. Just a bit. A tension that wasn't there seconds before. Colbert glanced at the audience, then back at Shakira. No one knew yet, but the question he was about to ask? It wasn't just off color, it was about to detonate a much bigger conversation. And Shakira, she wasn't just going to answer it, she was going to own it. Stephen Colbert has made a career out of tiptoeing on the edge of controversial humor. It's what gives his interviews that electric current. Never fully predictable, never completely safe. But there's a line, and Shakira, knowingly or not, was about to become the one drawing it in ink. The first few questions in Truth Bombs were innocent enough. Colbert teased her about her rumored obsession with astrology. She laughed. He asked about her dance training, and she playfully responded that she learned more from nightclubs than ballet classes. The audience ate it up. But there was something different in the way he delivered the next line. A pause. A deliberate arch in his brow. The kind of setup that lets the audience know this one's a little spicy. So, who was more possessive? He asked, tapping the card for effect. You or your ex? There it was. The audience gasped. A few even laughed, nervously. But Shakira's smile didn't flinch. That slight, graceful curve of her lips held steady. The kind of smile that says, I saw that coming, and I've already decided how I'll handle it. To anyone not paying attention, it might have seemed like just another cheeky celebrity question. But to fans who had watched Shakira's highly public, emotionally raw split from Gerard Piqué unfold in tabloid after tabloid, it wasn't cheeky. It was personal. It was invasive. And more than that, it was a simplification of a deeply painful chapter in her life. Colbert hadn't just asked about a breakup. He'd implied that she might have been to blame for its toxicity. Behind her, controlled smile, there was the faintest flicker of something else. Not rage, not indignation. Something sharper. Clarity. Colbert chuckled to fill the silence, looking around as if waiting for her to volley something back. But she didn't respond right away. Instead, she leaned back, just slightly. Her hands folded in her lap. Calm. Composed. And the audience, for the first time all night, went silent. You could feel it. The room had changed, because Shakira wasn't going to play along. Not this time. First confrontation. Approx 700 words. When Shakira finally spoke, her tired voice was velvet, soft but edged with steel. "Stephen," she said, drawing out his name with a tone that managed to be both gracious and firm, "I think we've evolved past the point where we reduce a woman's heartbreak to a punchline." The room didn't know what to do. There was no immediate applause, no laugh track. Just that dense, electric kind of silence that happens when someone has decided, consciously, to not play the game. Colbert shifted in his chair. His smile twitched, not quite vanishing, but definitely faltering. "Oh, come on," he said, gesturing to the crowd like he was inviting them back into the joke. "Just a little friendly fire, right?" But Shakira didn't budge. Her expression was the same, calm, unshaken. She glanced at the audience, then back at him. It's not friendly fire when you ask a woman to relive her most painful moments in front of a laughing crowd. And there it was. The air got heavier. Colbert tried to recover. "I mean, I thought we could joke about it now. You've been so open in your music, and hey, Bizarre P Music Sessions is fire, by the way." A flicker of a grin tugged at her mouth, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Yes, I have been open. In my music, on my terms." The emphasis on those last 3 words was like a scalpel, precise and unmissable. The audience started to murmur, shifting in their seats. Some were clearly uncomfortable, others intrigued. You could almost hear the internal monologue playing in real time across the crowd. Wait, is this real? Is this still part of the show? Shakira leaned forward slightly, hands now resting on the armrests. "Do you know what it's like, Stephen, to wake up and find that your entire life has become a headline? That your children are being followed at school because their mother's pain is viral content?" Colbert's smile had fully vanished. "Now." He raised a hand in surrender, muttering, "Fair, fair." But she wasn't done. "And do you know what it feels like to come on a show thinking you'll talk about art, about language, about the years I spent carving out space for Latina women in global music, and then to be asked if I was the possessive one in a relationship I walked away from to protect my own self-worth?" The studio was dead quiet. No one was laughing now. This wasn't just a clapback. This was a reset, a redrawing of boundaries in real time. Colbert cleared his throat, trying to steer the ship back toward humor, but it was too late. The moment had broken through the surface and everyone knew it. "Let me know if you'd like me to continue with Power Shift by Car Retaliation and the rest of the script, parts 5 to 9, or if you'd like to revise or insert anything before moving on. The thing about power is, it doesn't always need volume. Sometimes it moves in silence, in restraint, in the refusal to be rattled." And as Stephen Colbert tried to pivot to recover the room, to laugh his way out of the unease, Shakira leaned into that silence. Owned it, and then she turned the entire conversation on its head. She smiled, finally, fully, but not the kind Colbert was hoping for. This smile had history behind it. Layers. It was the smile of someone who's been underestimated too, many times, who's had to navigate an industry that often treats Latina artists like stereotypes, before giving them the mic. "I think it's fascinating," she said, voice calm again, "how comfortable we've become as a culture, poking at the emotional wounds of women, especially when those women dare to be honest." Colbert opened his mouth, then closed it. This wasn't a moment for jokes. He knew that now. "You know," Shakira continued, "men can write entire albums about breakups, rage, affairs, and they're called visionaries. But when a woman does it, when a woman dares to process betrayal publicly, Suddenly it's drama, gossip, or worse, comedy fodder. You could feel it settle in the room, the weight of what she was saying. It wasn't just about her anymore. She was speaking into something broader, something deeper. And that's not just about me, she added, making sure her voice carried. It's about every woman who's had to sit through a meeting, a dinner, an interview, and smile through the sting of a dismissive joke. Because if we react, we're difficult. If we don't, we're complicit. Now, Colbert looked genuinely chastened. He nodded slightly, acknowledging the shift. That's fair, he said, quieter now. That's very fair. Shakira tilted her head, thoughtful. I don't think it's malice. I really don't. I think it's habit, lazy habit. But maybe it's time we unlearn it. And then she did something even more unexpected. She extended grace, not as a performance, but because that's who she is. I came here because I respect your work, Stephen, and because I thought maybe we could have a conversation about creativity, language, the way music is transforming across borders. That's what excites me. That's what I've spent my life fighting for. I didn't come here to relive my trauma for a laugh, a beat. Then, I know we're better than that. And just like that, she flipped the entire power dynamic of the interview, not by yelling, not by storming off, but by staying rooted, honest, clear. It wasn't a shutdown, it was a recalibration. Colbert, to his credit, didn't double down, he didn't deflect. He nodded, hands folded now, eyes softer. You're right, he said simply, and I'm sorry. For once the room didn't erupt in applause, it didn't need to. What happened here was quieter, rarer, an actual shift. Shakira hadn't just seized control of the narrative, she'd redefined the rules of engagement, all while sitting perfectly still in that sleek black outfit, refusing to shrink, refusing to smile for the sake of smoothing things over. She hadn't humiliated him. She hadn't needed to. She'd just spoken truth with such clarity that the whole game changed. Emotional unmasking, approx. 600 words. There's something that happens when truth finally gets spoken out loud, like a key turning in a lock. The performance drops, the noise dims, and what's left is just people. Stephen Colbert let out a small sigh, one that didn't try to mask the fact that he felt in that moment exposed. It's funny, he said after a pause, because this show, it's supposed to be about laughing at the world together. But I guess sometimes we miss where the line really is. Shakira nodded slowly. It's okay to laugh, she said. God knows I do. Sometimes that's all I can do. But there's a difference between laughing with someone and laughing at their scars. It landed like a stone in still water. She glanced sideways at the audience, then back at Colbert. I think people forget that public figures, artists, aren't just made of interviews and award shows. We're real. We bleed. We heal. Sometimes we make art out of the mess, but that doesn't mean we owe anyone our pain in a digestible format. Colbert was silent now, genuinely listening. Shakira went on, more softly now. There was a moment, right after the breakup, when I was driving alone at night in Barcelona. My boys were asleep at home. The streets were quiet, and I remember thinking, this is it, this is the moment where I break or I build. She paused. So I wrote. I danced. I went into the studio, and I poured everything into the music. Not because it was marketable, because it was survival. That's when the audience shifted again, not in discomfort this time, but in understanding. I think we've all had that moment, she added, whether it's after a breakup or a loss or a betrayal, that moment when you choose to alchemize pain into something beautiful. She looked back at Colbert. You asked who was more possessive? The truth is I was holding on, but not to him, to myself, to the version of me I didn't want to lose. That quote, simple, devastating, would soon be tweeted, shared, reposted over thousands of screens. I wasn't holding on to him. I was holding on to me. It wasn't rehearsed, it wasn't PR polished. It was truth, spoken by a woman who had spent years rediscovering her voice beyond the headlines. And just like that, the mask was off, not just for Colbert, but for the audience too. They weren't just watching a celebrity interview anymore. They were watching a reckoning. Breakdown of facade, approximate 500 words. Colbert shifted in his chair again, but this time there was no performance in it. The warmth in his face had dimmed. The irony drained from his tone. "I think I really messed that up," he admitted. It was rare, painfully rare, to see a late-night host stripped of the tools that usually insulate them: sarcasm, charm, the next joke in the chamber. But there he was, visibly shaken. "I didn't mean to reduce what you went through," he added, his voice quiet. "I guess I was trying to keep it light, that's the instinct." Shakira nodded again, not out of pity but recognition. "I get it," she said. "We all have scripts, patterns, but maybe it's time to write new ones." The audience murmured, less like a crowd now, more like witnesses. For once, the control room didn't cut to commercial. There were no graphics, no music swells, just two people, one finding her voice again, the other losing his script. The emotional weight began to shift visibly on Colbert's face. He blinked more often. His hands fidgeted with a pen. He seemed unsure of how to close the segment, and maybe that was the point. Some moments shouldn't be neatly wrapped up. Online, the reactions started pouring in before the show even ended. Clips went viral in real time. Comment sections flooded. "Shakira just taught a masterclass in boundaries." Colbert got humbled live. This wasn't just about Shakira. It was about every woman who's ever been laughed at while she bled. The carefully curated world of late night, where questions are cleared and responses are polished, had been cracked open by authenticity. And while Colbert wasn't cancelled, he wasn't vilified, he was changed. You could see it. He wasn't angry, he wasn't defensive, he was human, and that's what made it land, because in the breakdown of the usual power dynamic, in the unraveling of facade, something raw and real slipped through. And that made the moment unforgettable. Shakira stood first. The segment was over, the applause polite but low. Not the roaring kind, the reflective kind. As she smoothed the hem of her jacket and walked across the stage, she paused, just long enough to look back at Colbert, still seated behind the desk, staring at his notes like they might somehow explain what just happened. "You know," she said gently, "I think we grow more from discomfort than applause." She wasn't angry. She wasn't smug. She just was. And then she walked off, not storming, not flouncing, just walking, upright, unshaken, and more powerful than she'd been at the start of the show. Colbert finally stood, cleared his throat, and looked out at the audience. "Ladies and gentlemen, Shakira." The applause grew, this time real, sustained. People were standing, not because of a joke, not because of a dance, but because of something far rarer, truth in its rawest form. Backstage, she didn't stop for interviews. She didn't tweet. She didn't need to. The internet would take it from here. And they did. Her quotes trending worldwide within minutes. Fan edits flooded TikTok. Think pieces landed in inboxes. Clips played on morning talk shows with words like grace, dignity, and recalibration attached to her name. But she was already gone, moved on, unbothered, because Shakira didn't come to win a war. She came to remind people who she is. Audience CTA, approx 100 words. So, what do you think? Did Stephen cross the line, or was Shakira's reaction exactly what the moment needed? Let us know in the comments below, respectfully. We want to hear your take on public boundaries, media responsibility, and the power of honest expression. And if you're here for more unfiltered cinematic moments where truth breaks through the noise, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on those notifications. We've got more stories that'll make you rethink the headlines, because sometimes the most powerful clapback doesn't come with a shout, it comes with a pause. So what do you think? Did Stephen cross the line, or was Shakira's reaction exactly what the moment needed? Let us know in the comments below, respectfully. We want to hear your take on public boundaries, media responsibility, and the power of honest expression. And if you're here for more unfiltered cinematic moments where truth breaks through the noise, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on those notifications. We've got more stories that'll make you rethink the headlines, because sometimes the most powerful clapback doesn't come with a shout, it comes with a pause.